What's up, everybody? It's the Alex Leak and Friends NFL podcast, back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got Dustin on the show. What's up, Dustin?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you on. This is the 2022 Baltimore Ravens season preview. Season right around the corner. The preseason games have already started. And this is the Ravens season preview. Now, you know, the Ravens were 8-3 last year. Lost the rest of their games, finished 8-9. Lamar Jackson missing the final 4 games with the ankle injury was a big reason why. So they're excited to have him back healthy. But the Ravens really have a lot of changes this offseason. You know, and they're getting J.K. Dobbins back, Gus Edwards back, guys like that. What do you think of the Ravens going into this year? You know, their chances high to get back to the playoffs, go on a deep run. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you know, they're a good team, and they're always going to be a good team. It's the Ravens season always depends on the health of their best player, which is Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Tyler Huntley played pretty well in those games when he came in for Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And actually had him on the verge of win if it wasn't for, you know, in my opinion, bad coaching.
Yeah, some weird coaching decisions, but at that point it was kind of like, what do we have to lose, so let's go for it all.
And I don't see Harbaugh doing that again. I think he learned his lesson.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the Ravens do well depending on Lamar Jackson.
It's interesting, the AFC North this year, because, I mean, the Bengals are a lot of hype coming off a run to the Super Bowl, so they're going to be tough to beat. The Steelers, you know, it's a new era, the Trubisky era, but, I think the Steelers are going to be competitive. They always are. And then you got the Browns, who we'll see how many games Deshaun Watson plays, but, I mean, that's a big upgrade, and they're a good team overall, too.
Mm-hmm. And let me say this real quick about Pittsburgh. You know, I had said last time I didn't think that they were going to finish very well, but they have an emergence of a guy at receiver, George Pickens, and he went off.
Yeah, and you combine him with Chase Claypool, and you've got something. Two studs.
And Kenny Pickett played well, too.
Yeah, and so did Trubisky.
So,
you know, things are going well in Pittsburgh at this point. You know, I think a big key for the Ravens is getting J.K. Dobbins back. That was huge, not having him and Gus Edwards. We forget that Gus Edwards is very serviceable. So those two backs, along with Lamar Jackson, should help Lamar too.
Most definitely.
And the Ravens are always a great rushing team.
It'll take the stress off of Lamar's, you know, shoulders, thinking like he doesn't have to be the guy to always be the playmaker and make the plays when he knows he has two guys in the backfield who are dynamic.
Yep, and they also bring in Mike Davis, so he can be either your second or third string running back, and then you draft a guy like Tyler Batty, you know, in the 6th round. You know, we'll see on him, but
out of Missouri.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the Ravens are looking good going into the season. A lot of reason for optimism. They did, however, trade the number 1 wide receiver, Hollywood Brown, at the draft. And that was a big move and Lamar's favorite target, and it prompted Lamar Jackson to tweet what WTF, what the fuck, to that trade. As of right now, the Ravens have no wide receiver on the team with more than 50 catches.
Yeah, that's a huge trade. I don't know what gave them the idea to want to go trade your best receiver. I mean, because he's dynamic for one. I mean, the dude can run.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, he's the reason for most of your production. And, you know, Lamar's favorite target. So now he has to find a guy who's going to be there, you know.
And so I can understand, I guess, I can understand trading Hollywood Brown during the draft if you're replacing him, if you're drafting a George Pickens or a big-name wide receiver.
Yep.
But they didn't. And that's my concern is, I mean, look at their receivers. I mean, so you're banking a lot on Rashad Bateman, who's going into year 2.
He's pretty good, though.
He's good, but he's going into year 2. He's not super experienced in the NFL. So if they ask him, he's a great number 2. I don't know if he's a number 1. Then you're talking about Devin Duvernay, James Prochet, Jalen Moore, Tylan Wallace. very unproven at the receiver spot.
Duvernay, though, is a playmaker. I have seen him make great plays.
They got speed, they got potential, they got all that. It's just, it's a lot to ask, you know. Like I said, I don't think no one has 50 career catches. So it's interesting. It puts a lot on Lamar Jackson and the running game.
And think about that. Hollywood Brown hasn't even been in the league that long, and he has over 50 catches. Like, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he's the man, and they were definitely using him like that, and now he's going to Arizona, teammate.
Why do you think that they traded him? Like, is there a reason behind it?
I'm not sure. I don't get trading him. I think, I don't know. Maybe they're going to change the philosophy a little bit. We were talking about earlier, going into the season, about how they need to kind of go away from Lamar, the runner, and kind of ask more out of Lamar throwing the ball. And giving away Hollywood Brown like that doesn't really help that.
That's true, but you know what though? I think that their run game is going to be so dynamic that they really wouldn't need Lamar to make plays with his feet still. If Lamar is a game manager, I'm not saying he will be. You know, we all know he's capable of being a playmaker. But if he can go out there and throw the ball 20, 30 times and be accurate, and don't have to be this huge playmaker, their run game is already there. We know what J.K. Dobbins can do. We know what,
Gus Edwards.
Yes, what Gus Edwards can do. You know, so I think they're going to be all right.
Yeah, and then also, it's not just Hollywood Brown. You can kind of smirk at losing Sammy Watkins because he wasn't doing a lot. They also lost Miles Boykin, who isn't bad.
No, Boykin was decent.
And he's a big body receiver. So, a guy that kind of flashed, two guys that flashed in the preseason. Tylan Wallace is obviously one to keep an eye on. The other two, Victor Benjamin is someone to keep an eye on, and Shamar Bridges showed out in the preseason as well. So maybe some guys that we don't know about yet step up, and
well, he also has Mark Andrews too.
Yep,
really great tight end. In my opinion, top 5 in the league right now.
Their tight ends are crazy, and they don't settle. They got Mark Andrews and Nick Boyle, and they go and draft 2 more tight ends. Isaiah Likely, who's a good prospect, and Charlie Kohler, too.
Oh, yeah, I like Charlie Kohler out of Iowa State.
And Isaiah Likely is right there, so they're both, potential studs at some point, very serviceable tight ends. Mark Andrews is, going to do his thing for sure. How about your boy Kyle Hamilton going in the first round of the Ravens?
Yeah, we've already seen him making some big plays in the preseason game.
Yeah, and going into the draft, he was drawing Ed Reed comparisons. So getting the Ed Reed type player to the Ravens kind of makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
He's going to be good, really good.
They also got Tyler Linderbaum, center, so that's going to help Lamar, a day one starting center.
And I don't think people realize how good Tyler Linderbaum really actually is.
Oh, yeah.
He came from Iowa, and that's all they focus on is running the football.
And the offensive line. And
yeah.
David Ojabo in the second round, coming off a major injury, but he's got a high upside.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He, at times, played some games sometimes better than what Aiden Hutchinson did.
They also get Morgan Moses in free agency. Starting right tackle, and he hasn't missed a game since 2014, so a very solid tackle there.
Impressive.
Yep. And they addressed the defensive line with Means, Michael Pierce, Brent Urban, Kyle Fuller. Just a couple of years ago, in 2018, Kyle Fuller had 7 interceptions for the Bears. Has kind of fallen off since then, was benched in Denver last year. Do you think Kyle Fuller still has it to be, they got him slotted as the starting nickel corner. We'll see if that plays out like that, but I'm a fan of Kyle Fuller. I hope he can bounce back.
Well, everybody deserves a second chance.
Maybe it just wasn't a good fit in Denver.
Yeah.
With Vic Fangio and
And I think Harbaugh wouldn't have him believing he could start if he really didn't believe he was going to be a good player at that position. So,
and you bring him into a veteran, secondary and defense. You got Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey, so Fuller can kind of, he doesn't have to be the number one corner. So that helps. Let's look also at their draft. I mean, Travis Jones, defensive tackle out of UConn, who I like. He's got some good upside. Jalen Armour Davis, a corner who I really like.
Yeah.
And he just looks good in a Ravens jersey. Like that Armour Davis, it seems like he was meant to play for the Ravens. Charlie Kohler, Isaiah Likely, and how about 4th round pick Jordan Stout, punter out of Penn State, who's already showing out in the preseason.
Yeah.
Like,
he's playing well.
Yeah, and you got to have him to replace Sam Cook, who finally retired after a 16-year career.
Yeah, and that's another thing is, a lot of people don't understand how good or how important punters really are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, if you can flip the field in the NFL, it gives you a good chance at, winning games and keeping teams scoreless.
And I think Jordan Stout is one of the best. I mean, I think he's going to be very successful in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
A big thing we got to talk about is losing defensive coordinator Wink Martindale. Who goes to the Giants, takes over their job. So now Michigan DC Mike McDonald returns to the Ravens, where he spent a lot of time. 1 year at Michigan as DC, now to the Ravens as DC. What do you think of Mike McDonald?
Oh, let me tell you, if it's any indication of that Michigan defense last year,
yeah,
he had Michigan's defense from playing from average in 2020, 2019 to coming in here last year, and that defense was no joke. I mean, you had, in my opinion, David Ojabo, if he wasn't towards Achilles, would have been a first-round draft pick.
Oh, yeah.
So you had two, guys who were elite defenders who should have been first-round draft picks. One of them was, obviously, the second pick.
Mm-hmm.
But,
you could make an argument he was the best defensive player in the draft.
Yep.
And I think that was a big reason why Michigan beat Ohio State finally, was the improved defense.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see if Mike McDonald can have that success in the NFL here with Baltimore. Again, the Ravens were 8-3, best record in the AFC, and then it all fell apart. So they're going to try to finish the deal this year. They want, Baltimore wants the division championship. They want to be better. They want to finish better than Cincy, knock the Bengals off their throne. They want to, of course, finish better than Pittsburgh, their biggest rival.
Well, that and, Lamar's tired of hearing that he can't win.
Yeah.
He can't win the playoffs. He can't get over the hump and help the team win the Lombardi Trophy,
And this is a team that's never been to the conference championship game. Mm-hmm. So this needs to be the year. They need to get there. And if Lamar wants that huge contract extension, if he goes out, doesn't get it before the season starts, if he goes out and leads this team deep into the playoffs, he'll definitely get it.
Yep, for sure.
So expectations will be high for Baltimore, planning on returning to the playoffs. What happens? So John Harbaugh got a contract extension, this offseason. What happens, though, if, God forbid, this team misses the playoffs for a second year in a row? Because it's a tough division.
It is. Very tough. But I think that the Bengals love John Harbaugh.
The Ravens?
The Ravens.
They're committed to him.
Yeah.
But what about Lamar? I think they're committed to him as well. I don't think missing the playoffs would change that.
No, but, I would start to at least be in talks of an extension with Lamar because, we've seen things go sideways before when guys don't get extensions.
That's a great point. And so, two things here. You haven't given Lamar his extension yet, which he wants. He wants that security and job security. And you traded away his number one receiver this offseason. There's something there. We need to keep an eye on this because if things don't go right this year, maybe Lamar, and I don't know. You never know. Maybe Lamar wants out. You can't underemphasize how big of a deal it is to your star quarterback when you trade away a guy of the caliber of Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
And don't replace him, too.
You see it all the time of guys who are unhappy because a certain player that it was either their friend or a guy who could help them win big time, or somebody who helped them put up stats. As in, a quarterback losing somebody.
No one anticipated Deshaun Watson wanting out of the Texans until they traded away DeAndre Hopkins.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Stuff like that matters.
They started the fall of Bill O'Brien.
Yep. So we'll see. I mean, we're not over here rooting against the Ravens. We're just talking about all the what ifs. Yep. And it has to be talked about. It's a tough division. Who knows what could happen for them to miss the playoffs. That being said, I've got this team in the playoffs. How about you?
I do.
Let's talk about their win-loss record, like our anticipation here. I think the Ravens, looking at their schedule and everything, I've got them between, I'd say 10-7, 10 to 12 wins. I think that's what I would say. Is that low? Is that high? What do you think?
I think 12 is high. Give me between 11 and 10. I do. That division is tough.
What about 9 and 8? Is that too low?
Again, it depends on Lamar Jackson.
You go 9 and 8, you might miss the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
because the AFC is loaded. 11 to 12, 13 wins might be too much. I think 12 wins is doable. I say 10 to 12 wins. You say 10 to 11. 10 wins might not be enough in this conference.
Yeah, because, man, you have so many good teams out in the AFC West. At least 3 of those guys who can make the playoffs. You're going to have guaranteed 1 in the South.
Yep. I don't see why the Steelers can't win 10 games. 9, 10, right in that vicinity. The Bengals are expected to be pretty damn good again. And who knows about Cleveland? Probably not this year, Cleveland, because of Watson. But so I think it's a 3-team race. And one of these 3 teams is going to miss out on the playoffs. Right now, the favorite has got to be Bengals and Ravens, as the top 2 teams. But keep an eye on Pittsburgh. I like what Pittsburgh's doing. You talked about Pickens, Claypool. I'm a big Najee Harris guy. So keep an eye on that.
Not only that, but Pickens and Claypool both have size. I think Claypool is like 6'4", and Pickens is what, 6'5"?
Yep.
Those are 2 big body receivers that's going to give you problems.
So let's say they do make the playoffs, the Ravens. How far can they go? Do you think, saying 10 to 11 wins, are they going to win the division? Or are you picking Cincy?
I got Cincinnati
to repeat.
Yeah.
See, for whatever reason, I'm not buying the Bengals to repeat as champions this year in the North. As of right now, I think I would pick Baltimore. So, I just think the Bengals haven't had the target on their back before in a long time. And so it's going to be interesting to see how Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, Zach Taylor, the head coach, responds to the pressure now of being the hunted instead of hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Can the Ravens can easily make the playoffs. They can easily go to the divisional round. But can they go to the conference championship?
Man, that's tough. It's
going to be interesting. It's a big year in Baltimore.
Now, let me say this. In my opinion, they do have a championship defense.
Yeah.
That defense is going to be elite.
Yeah, I think it's going to be back and very
amongst
good.
the best in the league.
Yeah.
But the offense, man, they just don't have the guys who stand out. But, Duvernay, like I said, is playmaker when he wants to be. He also returns kicks, I believe, too.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then Bateman, he's going to be the one, obviously, now.
Bateman's going to get a lot of targets. I'm kind of banking on, I think Duvernay is going to get a lot. But one of these other guys needs to step up, whether it be Tylan Wallace, Jalen Moore, Victor Benjamin, Shamar Bridges. Somebody needs to step up out of kind of nowhere and help out. And maybe someone sneaky comes up and becomes the number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, and again, I said it earlier, but you can't forget about a guy like Mark Andrews who was second, or the second leading receiver on that team.
He's going to get a lot of targets, absolutely. So maybe, but it'll be interesting. So I say 10 to 12, you say 10 to 11, and we'll see how far they can go in the playoffs. And the big thing is, Baltimore, you better get back into the playoffs, because if you don't, that's when the concerns happen. They start asking what's wrong,
And the problem to me is, you cannot take a sweep out of any team in that division.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't let Pittsburgh beat you twice. You can't let Cleveland beat you twice, and you can't let Cincinnati beat you twice, or there's going to be problems.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to at least split, and you're trying to sweep. So, Justin Tucker, the best kicker in the game. Robbie Gould's right there, but Justin Tucker's great.
Shout out to Pablo.
Shout out Pablo. So Tucker really helps, when you can kick. What did he kick against the Lions?
I think it was like a 63 or 64 yarder.
Something ridiculous to beat the Lions. So it's gonna be crazy. I can't wait for the season. Ravens fans, hopefully it's a good year. I think it will be, but how good to be, wait and see. And hopefully, fingers crossed on good health for Lamar all season long, no injuries. Tyler Huntley, I was thinking about this earlier, one of the better backups in the league. Tyler Huntley.
Oh, yeah.
And borderline starter, and maybe he can earn himself a starting opportunity at some point.
So, real quick, before we get done with this.
Yeah.
If Lamar struggles, and I'm not saying he will, but I'm saying if he happens to, would you blame that on the lack of depth at receiver and them guys not being experienced, or he just one side of Baltimore?
I don't think he's going to struggle in the running game, but if he struggles in the passing game due to, maybe these guys struggle getting open or getting separation from the defender, then, you got to start looking at offensive play caller, and you got to start, Lamar's going to not be happy, and you can't talk about it enough about how big of a deal it is losing Hollywood Brown. So, and it's kind of mind-blowing to me that the Ravens didn't replace him.
Mm-hmm.
You can sell me on moving on from him. You can't sell me on not replacing his talent.
Well, yeah, I mean, they could have easily went out and got a guy like Odell Beckham Jr.
Which they still could.
Cole Beasley or
T.Y. Hilton, something. So
a veteran. Yeah, a veteran.
We'll see what they do. So that's our Ravens season preview. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Good shit, Dustin.
Thank you.
And peace out.